My name is Dr. Teresa Cornacchione. I know a lot of the faces in here already, and some of you I don't know, but I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better. Welcome to our info session on the Askew Haskell Scholarship Award. Today we're going to talk through a couple of different things. I'll tell you a little bit about our team here that works on the research programs, about the BGC, a little bit about the program itself, the requirements to apply, the requirements to complete it successfully. You'll hear a video, some video clips from our current students. We also have a current student that's a Askew Haskell Scholar, Mary too. She'll be around for a little bit to answer any questions that you might have from a student perspective. We'll give you some application tips, and then we'll go over some important dates for you to know for the application cycle. All right, there am I about 10 pounds ago, and my research assistant, Ava. As some of you may know, Ava Miner, she's the student assistant for research and academic programs here at the center. You probably got a lot of emails reminding you to come to this. She's a great point of contact too for the program. She helps me do the workshops. She orders the food, so she's doing a good job all around. But we're both good people to ask, and so if you have questions, it's always good practice to email both of us, so one of us will see it and be able to answer your questions. We are here at the Bob Graham Center for Public Service. How many of you are already familiar with the Bob Graham Center for Public Service? Quite a few of you, that's great. So the Bob Graham Center, for those of you who are unaware, was founded in 2006 by former U.S. Senator and former Florida Governor Bob Graham. He created the center to be sort of a kind of a focal point for any student who is looking to increase their civic engagement, public service, public leadership, policy, studies, any of that. It doesn't matter your major. In fact, we have engaged with lots of different majors, including math majors, data science majors, art majors, and of course political science majors. But we kind of hit the gambit of majors that come and engage with our center and our various programs. And the Askew Haskell Scholarship is no different. So we welcome applicants from all majors around the campus. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the program overview. What is Askew Haskell Scholars? There's two names because technically we call people who study domestic policy in the United States or domestic issues Askew Scholars, and people who study global stuff, Haskell Scholars. That is it. That is the only difference. Everything else is exactly the same. It's designed to fund your individual undergraduate research project. And I say that because this is not an award for a faculty member who is just working with a student or has a student assistant. This is more for the student research project who happens to have a faculty mentor who they can go to for questions and advice, right? So it's a student-centered research award. The research projects can be on a variety of topics and can relate to a variety of disciplines, but we would like projects specifically that can be tied to our mission at the Graham Center relating to civic engagement, public service, policy, leadership, in any kind of domestic or global topic. It's kind of actually a very easy thing to potentially connect things to public service and civic engagement, but we will ask you to be very overt in how you describe your projects and how they connect to those themes. People who are awarded the scholarship get $2,000 over the course of the academic year. This gets given to you in two payments, one in the fall and one in the spring, and it goes directly into your UF account. It is essentially cash in your pocket. We do not ask you to spend it on any particular thing or item. We also don't restrict, assuming it's legal, what you spend your money on. So other students in the program in the past have used it to purchase laptops, software, travel to conferences. They've used it just as extra income, right, to supplement, their rent or their grocery bill, and that's totally fine with us. Faculty mentors, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Faculty mentors receive $1,000 in professional development funds. And what that means, as you are potentially communicating this to potential faculty mentors is our administrative specialist. Some of you know her, Shireen, literally transfers $1,000 to whatever department that faculty member works for, and then they can use it pretty much however they want under UF guidelines, right? So they can use it for basically the same kind of stuff that you would use your money for. Faculty mentors can be from anywhere in the university. So they can be from any department or college. They just need to be a UF faculty member, and that's it. Any questions thus far? I will give you a chance to ask questions at the end, but you should feel comfortable asking questions now if you want. All right. I'd love to have you hear from some of our current scholars, so we put together a little video about what they study, so you can see the variety of different topics that we have funded this past year, and you can hear a little bit about what they've enjoyed about their cohort experience.
Hello everybody, my name is Leila Bark and I'm an Arabic, Political Science and International Studies major. My research looks into how European integration policies affect the everyday lives of Syrian refugees.
Hi everyone, my name is Ananya Balaji and I'm majoring in political science and criminology. And my research topic for the scholarship program is looking at numbers of police brutality accountability and seeing how that impacts civic engagement and voter turnout.
My name is Mary Ryman. I'm a senior studying family, youth, and community sciences. My research focuses on how we can better educate internationally displaced youth populations with a case study specifically in Ireland.
Hi, my name is Celine Siltes, and I'm a political science and economics major. I currently pursue research on Florida women in the Florida State Legislature, particularly focusing on how a woman's legislative effectiveness impacts their likelihood of collaboration in the following legislative cycle.
Everybody should pursue the Askew Haskell Scholars Program because it gives you the funding, mentorship, and community to turn your interests into real-world, meaningful research while being surrounded by people who genuinely want to support your work.
I think that students should pursue the scholarship program in order to just be able to conduct their research while being well connected to some of the best faculty and other resources in order to pursue your research even outside of university.
My favorite activity so far as a cohort has been kind of our speed dating activity, where we really practiced discussing our abstracts and giving a research elevator pitch. Not only was it fascinating to hear about the different topics students were looking into, but it also felt like great preparation for presenting at a research conference one day, hopefully.
My favorite memory is working with Dr. Teresa Cornacchione, my faculty advisor, and all of the laughs that we've shared while editing my research together. I highly recommend you join, and thanks for listening.
All right, so that gives you kind of a little bit of a flavor of the variety, and that's just a small pocket of our research cohort this year. So we have a variety of topics. Some of the ones that you didn't hear about include looking at how Filipino nurses are treated as they immigrate and use their services elsewhere, which is one particular topic that we have. There's also one on the radical right in Hungary. So we have a lot of different types of research projects that you are welcome to explore. So in terms of the requirements for completion, so if you are selected, there are some requirements that we ask of you. We're not just going to hand you the money and never see you again, hopefully. What we would like for you to do, and what we ask for you to do, is to attend regular cohort meetings. We do 2 a semester, and these cohort meetings are a place to check in with your cohort, with me, with Ava, to talk about how your research process is going. We also use that to do workshop different skills. So in Mary's video, she mentioned our kind of speed elevator pitching activity. That's where we kind of honed in how do you actually talk about your own research and what tips can you give other people. We've also done stuff on literature reviews, how to publish, how to get involved in conferences, and like our next one, we'll be talking about how to present your research in an academic setting. So we do a variety of topics for you. You join a Canvas page that gets put onto your e-learning dashboard where all these sources are available as well. You must successfully complete your project, right? If you have a project, you need to complete it within the academic year. Maintain regular contact with your faculty advisor. You have 2 opportunities, and your advisor has 2 opportunities to provide feedback to the program about how it's going. So you get to kind of identify sort of how you are working with your advisor, if there's any challenges that you think I could help address, and your advisor has that same opportunity as well. You also must publicly present your research in some way. The easiest way to do that is through our undergraduate research symposium that we hold every April. And that is an academic conference style symposium. It's not a poster presentation. You're actually presenting as if you were at an academic conference. We bring in graduate students and faculty from across campus to serve as discussants, which means they watch your presentation and offer feedback. And that would be considered successful completion of the project. Everybody's project could be a little different. There are students who use their honors thesis, right, as an Askew Haskell, and so they have a paper they work on to their faculty advisor. I'm never going to ask to see the paper. The presentation would be successful completion of the project. One year we had an art student who did an art installation over at the College of the Arts. That counted as a successful completion of the project. So those are the requirements. In terms of the application itself, so this QR code takes you to the application. You can also access it on our website. Ava will follow up with a link to the application as well, an email. It's also off of that QR. There's a lot of places you can get this application. The application is a very simple Qualtrics form. It's going to ask for 3 basic things. One is a personal research statement. So this is a short, about 750-word statement about what you want to research, why you think it's an important or interesting topic, and how it connects to the themes of the Graham Center. So public policy, civic engagement, leadership, so on and so forth. It does not need to be a fully baked research idea. I'm a big believer, and some of you who have known me know that I like to say research is iterative. And so sometimes you start with a particular topic, or you're swimming in a particular sort of area, and then you collect, data, or you read more literature, and you go, actually, I think I'm going to go this way now. That's fine, but we want to see something a little bit tangible. So while it does not have to be a fully baked out idea, it should have some specificity. So for example, don't say, I want to study voting. What about voting, right? Is there any kind of particular sort of detail that you could potentially add to that? You will also need to attach a current resume. This does not need to be your life story type of resume. This can be like college and beyond, right? Like type of stuff. Mostly we use it for the scholars who are selected. It's our easy way to identify their major and just some little things about them, right? So that's what we use it for. And you need a letter of support from a faculty member here on campus. Now, this person does not necessarily need to be the faculty mentor you ultimately work with. This can be any faculty member who you've engaged with in any way who can briefly speak to your sort of credibility as a student. So is this a person who seems reliable, like they participate well in class, or I'm confident that they can probably complete a project? Mostly we're looking for red flags in those things, like they were in the class, they breathed air in my class. They never came to class. I don't know why they asked me to write this letter, right? Those kinds of things. So somebody that you would trust to write you a nice recommendation. It does not need to be lengthy or anything like that. And like I said, this could be the person that you have identified as your faculty mentor. It doesn't have to be, okay? What do we look for in the application? So we look for high quality, feasible proposals. And feasible is important there. We want it to be something that you could successfully complete in an academic year. Some things you're not going to be, there's some ideas out there that are really great, but have no chance of being successfully completed in an academic year. If you were like, I want to do brain scans on people in Congress to see if people think differently. That's an actual study from the UK, from the 80s when they had a lot looser restrictions. But that would not be feasible to us, right? That would be not something we think that you could finish in a year. So something feasible that you could finish in a year, something that seems interesting. If it's interesting to you, that should come through in your personal statement. A connection to the Graham Center's mission. We look for a broad range of disciplines. We also look to make sure that this is your project and not really like a professor's project, which sometimes happens. You know, they talk about it as, oh, I've been working with this professor on their research for this thing, and now I want to, like, really make it clear that this is something that you are doing as a student. You're not assisting another person. You do not need to identify a faculty mentor to apply or be selected. And a faculty mentor, you know, sometimes you have good relationships with faculty, enough for them to write a letter, but you're like, I really don't know if I want to work a whole year academically, you know, going to them and getting help, or maybe they're not necessarily the right person to help you with that project. So for example, if somebody came to me and was like, I want to do a project on Southeast Asia, I would say, that sounds really interesting. Let me introduce you to my colleague, Dr. Karras, right? So it might be something where you find a faculty mentor who's better suited to your particular project than the person who wrote the letter for you. Having a mentor is helpful, but as I said, it's not required to apply or be awarded. If you are awarded an Askew Haskell Scholarship and you are still struggling to find a mentor, we can help you with that. I actually have lots of connections. We have lots of connections through the Graham Center, different faculty, people who have served as Askew Haskell mentors previously, who are sort of our go-to like type of people we could ask if they would be willing to do that. And it comes with $1,000, so it's usually not a problem finding somebody. All right, so a couple of dates to remember. Applications are now open, so you can go ahead and go in and start working on your application, but they will close March 4th, and then we will notify everybody who applied, whether you received the award or didn't, by March 13th. So before you go on spring break, you will know if you've gotten your Askew Haskell. And then we will have a scholars orientation in April, date to be announced. That is where we will come bring you in, you know, kind of talk to you about the expectations and help you identify a mentor. Dorothy, our communications director, will want to get a headshot and bio and all of this about you as well. You are welcome to ask questions now or email. You can email me and Ava for any questions that you may come up with while you're doing your application. Even if it's something like, I don't know if it's submitted, can you check? We can do that for you. And if you aren't already, you need to stay in touch with us. You can subscribe to our newsletter, follow us on all the social media sites as well. Come by, see us, say hello. All right. With that, does anybody have any questions? Yes, any research project could be too specific to the point where it's like, I could probably just Google the answer, right? Like I could just find that. But I would say for this, I haven't really seen that be the problem in applications previously. What I've more seen a problem in applications is kind of being specific about, well, what is exactly the question? Like, what are you actually doing, right, for your research, or what would you like to do for your research? Sometimes that doesn't come across very clearly, right, in some of these applications, or a connection to what the Graham Center does. And more of, sometimes it's, it could come across as like, I'm applying for this because there's $2,000 attached, which is a totally valid reason to apply for something. But maybe, you know, you don't highlight, money's not, we all want money. But, you know, maybe, you know, talk more about sort of how, you know, the money would help you, right, conduct the research, right, and how it connects to the research. Yeah. That's a great question. We do have one current Askew Haskell scholar who is also a university scholar. But the projects are different enough. So I think the projects surf in the same area, like have a overarching sort of tangential connection, but are on two different sort of things themselves. So you can, but they have to be distinguishable from one another. No, fall and spring, right. Some scholars start working on their projects in the summer, and that has a lot just to do with your individual project, your faculty mentor, what you're doing with that project. So like if it's an honors thesis, right, a lot of people are starting it before the fall because they're trying to get their honors thesis up and going. Mary, did you work on yours at all this past summer? Or?
To be truthful, I had plans to, and then
Yeah.
the internship kind of took over my life. But I started like my literature review, so I was reading about my topic, but I didn't actually like really start writing until the fall, I would say.
Yeah. I don't think so. I mean, it's more along the lines of quality of application, right? You know, some things that we might kind of consider in the back of our head is, have we provided this student a variety of funding in other ways too? Or is this project maybe better suited for another one of our opportunities? But in terms of you know, that's not really sort of one of our concerns. Yeah, and it has changed. Now, obviously, we wouldn't want it to change to the degree of like it no longer fits with, you know, the goals and the sort of spirit of the award, right? But I've had many conversations with individual scholars as they sort of develop their questions. They're like, actually, I'm thinking now of focusing just on this one thing. Usually people don't do an entire 180 on their projects, but it's more about they've refined it, or they're changing the scope of it, or they're whittling it down. They've actually discovered, you know, to speak to Sarah's point, they usually have the opposite problem, where they're like, oh my gosh, like this could be a book. I'm going to just focus it on this one thing here. I would say go to a professor whose class you're enjoying, right? And that, you know, you have good attendance in, right? And say, I'm applying for this. Would you be able just to provide me a basic, seems decent, right, type of letter? Yeah. We will, and so what you will do in the application is you will identify that person with their email, and then Ava and I reach out to them for the letter with instructions and kind of explaining what we're looking for too. So that may help them, you know that they don't have to write this like, I've worked with this student for years and then, you know, blah, blah, blah. It can be a little bit more, look, they come to class, they seem responsible. I think that they would be an appropriate fit. Yeah, I mean, that's really dependent upon you and your faculty mentor. Some faculty mentors are hands-off and students love that, right? They check in maybe once or twice a semester and they're like, do you need anything? No? Good, okay. Or the student and the faculty mentor have a relationship where there's a lot more sort of hand-holding and teaching in that part of it. That is really individual. We're just making sure that you, basically when we do our faculty mentor checks, that you have maintained some level of communication with them that is appropriate for your project and your kind of agreed upon sort of standard, right? So like I said, I've had scholars and I've supervised honors theses. Some of my supervisees need me to sit with them, you know, and this is nothing against them, but this is just how they work. You know, they need me to sit with them every couple of weeks and read drafts and talk through things and all of that. Some have been to the point where it's like, we checked in at the beginning of the semester. They pinged me when there was something ready for me to review. I gave them feedback, and then, you know, we moved on. So it really just depends on what you and your faculty mentor both decide on and how well you work, right? Like in terms of what you need from them. Either. Yeah, either. And like I said, a lot of, I know it's your honors thesis.
It
Was?
no longer, but most of the members are.
Yeah, our honors thesis, so they have an idea in mind. Not necessary either. We've also had scholars in the past who are literally just like, this seemed really interesting to me and I just want to do it. And I want to explore this. So yeah, either way. 10. We will select 10. That's a good question. So I think last year we got about 30. I think the year before we usually get, I think, somewhere between 30 and 50. Not. I think that, so for my perspective, it tends to be students who have some research experience, whether they've taken a research methods or design class, or they've done research on their own or with a professor. That's usually just the nature of being able to come up with your own individual project that you want to pursue for a whole year, right? But it is not necessary. Like, I'm not checking your resume to see if you've had prior research experience. Usually it's that connection to the Graham Center mission, right? So our most successful applicants are really able to communicate not only clearly what they're interested in researching and why it's important, but they're also able to communicate how that connects to our mission and how having this experience would benefit the research. And so being able to clearly articulate those things is really what makes certain applications stand out. More so than letters of rec, more so than anything on your resume. Like, the thing that we weight the most on is that personal research statement. Right. Yes, absolutely. And if you are interested in receiving course credit, that is a conversation that we can have. So some arrangements that we have done in the past. So first of all, if you're writing an honors thesis in another department, usually you get like course credit, for that. If you just want some kind of course credit and you're not getting it for an honors thesis, right? We can enroll you in an independent study with me as the instructor, and you'll get course credit for completing it as well. I don't grade you or any. I mean, I do. I have to give you a grade at the end of the semester, but it would be an A, assuming you didn't just disappear. But yeah, that's how that would work. So we can actually have that conversation. Other questions? All right, well, feel free to keep eating, talking. If you've got to go. And the recording of this will be available somewhat soon. And Ava will follow up with a link to, thank you, Mary, with a link to the actual application. You are welcome also to visit me during office hours. I have office hours Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Tuesdays, which is today, from 1 to 2:30, and Wednesdays from 2 to 3:30. And I also have a Calendly, which you can find online. All right. Thanks, guys. Eat. Definitely take some more food.